Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Over the New Year period just gone, this channel ticked over the 1,000 subscriber mark, which I am absolutely blown away by. I really do appreciate every like, every comment and every subscription to this channel. It really does mean the world to me. To celebrate that fairly arbitrary milestone, I'm going to be giving away one of my prints, and it's a print of my image Serpentine, which is currently appearing in the Royal Maritime Museum as part of the Astronomy Photographer of the Year exhibit. It's a Star Trails image taken up at Snettisham Jetty on the North Norfolk coast. I took it about 24 months ago, and it's certainly one of my favourite images, and I was delighted for that to appear in the exhibit and as a finalist in that competition. It's an A3 print mounted. It's on Permajet titanium gloss paper, and that gives the Star Trails a really almost glittery sort of appeal. They really do seem to sparkle on the paper. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning this print, then all you have to do is leave a comment on this video and be subscribed to the channel by the end of this month. So that's the end of January 2025, and after that my wife Esther will very kindly pick a winner from those comments, and I'll get in touch with you and get this print on the way to you. The reason I'm getting Esther to select the winner is she, more than anyone, has sacrificed the most for this channel, as I've been out and about at all sorts of hours on my adventures, and then very frequently woken her up when I've come in afterwards. So thanks very much, Esther, and hopefully one of you will get your hands on this print very soon. Tonight though, I am back out on the Suffolk coast. I am at a village called Walberswick, which is a very pretty village right on the coast here with a shingle beach just south of Southwold, a very popular little seaside town. I've been here a few times during the day, never been here at night. And I had a wander around earlier. I got here just after sunset, trying to find some compositions. And I have to say, I think it's going to be a little bit challenging. There's no obvious draw. There's no obvious foreground that I can use for the nighttime. So I think I'm going to be fighting quite hard to find good images, but I'm up for that challenge. There's some driftwood, some sort of washed up trees on the beach. There is some jetties going out into the sea, as well as some dilapidated jetties and sea defences. There's some bridges over some of the creeks in this marshland behind me, so I'm sure I'll be able to find something to work with, but certainly there weren't the sort of big shouty foregrounds that I had sort of hoped for before arriving. But it's a beautifully dark place. You can probably see Orion coming out of the darkness above the North Sea behind me. There's a bit of light pollution up towards Southwold to the north, and a bit of light pollution to the south, where there is the Sizewell nuclear power project. But otherwise, this is about as good as it gets in this part of the UK, so I'm really excited to be here. I'm now going to pack myself up, get myself off looking for some foregrounds. Thanks very much indeed for joining me. Well, I said this might be a challenging night, probably not for the reasons that I thought. Working on my first composition here, the tide is coming in very, very quickly, and that caused me quite a catastrophic problem earlier, which I'll fill you in on in a little second. But this initial composition is with the 14mm Samyang lens, and it shows this old sea defence to the right, this groin going out to the sea, along with this old jetty on the left going out. So they kind of converge towards the horizon. I'm shooting quite downwards at the moment, and then my sky shot will be 14mm of Orion, hopefully a lot of the Pleiades, Hyades and the Sirius area as well. So that whole kind of region I'll be doing at 14mm. I'm shooting at ISO 6400, 30-second exposure, and I've got long exposure noise reduction on as well. Probably I would have preferred to have done this shot at 24mm, but earlier this evening, you probably know I do time lapses as B-roll for these videos, and I set my camera up just down there, what I thought was quite a nice composition with one of the groins in front of me. And unfortunately, I must have not checked the tide times properly, because when I came back down an hour and a half later to collect the camera, the tide had come in, and there is no sign of that camera or my 24mm Sigma Art lens or the wireless intervalometer that was sitting on top of it, or the tripod. So that's a little bit sickening, to be honest, but these things do happen. They happen when you do nightscaping. Nightscaping is very, very hard on equipment. You're doing stuff at night with clumsy hands in often muddy, sandy territory, and I quite like doing things by the coast. This is the first accident of that kind I've ever had. I can't say I'm not really annoyed with myself and a little bit disappointed. It's taken a little bit of the zing out of the evening, but I'm going to try and salvage what I can. I've still got the modified Canon 6D here. I've got another unmodified Canon 6D, but I don't have my Sigma 24mm anymore. But we'll try and make the most of the situation. Okay, so that's a reasonable foreground. Got a little bit of shadow from the tripod here. There's some lights out towards Southwold over there, but I think I can probably edit those out. It's not a groundbreaking composition, but it's okay for here. Right, I'm going to move away from this sea to go and do my sky shots. Okay, so I think we've probably got our second composition of the night here. This looks like a big branch from a tree. Well, it is a big branch from a tree, which has been washed up here. I don't know where it's come from. I assume some of the very sandy cliffs further north here, where trees are falling into the sea, and this has perhaps snapped off and washed down here over a few weeks in some of the storms we've had recently. Rather pleasingly, it's a leading line up to Orion, which is quite fortunate. I guess if it wasn't, I could always shift it around a bit if I was able to move it. Not sure I would be able to. Possibly. Not going to try it though. So I think I'll put the camera at this end. I might have to focus stack a bit, and probably have a portrait oriented shot again, probably at 14mm with Orion up there looking pretty good. So I think let's get on with it. Okay, I think I think that will work. It's not the most sensationally beautiful piece of driftwood I've ever come across, but I think I can get a decent image out of it. I actually ended up shooting landscape, and I'll do a landscape 14mm shot of Orion and that area as well above it. I think that'll work better. I used a 30-second exposure, ISO 6400, f2.8, and I've got long exposure noise reduction on as well. The tide's now coming in a bit further. I'm not going to take any more risks down here now, so I'm going to get myself back up on top of the cliffs here and hopefully carry on some shooting. Tracker is all set up. I'm doing 3-minute exposures at f4 with the 14mm lens. I'm at ISO 800 and I'm just blown away by how the Nomad tracker can do 3 minutes, absolutely no problem at all. I know I'm at a quite wide lens, this 14mm, but it really is a phenomenal piece of kit. And the advantage of doing a 14mm shot here is I get all of the winter circle. So Sirius at the bottom, Rigel at the bottom right hand corner of Orion there. I get Aldebaran, the Pleiades, and then almost overhead I have Capella in Auriga, and then down through the 2 stars Castor and Pollux of Gemini. Mars is also gate crashing the party over there, as is Jupiter right in sort of the top middle of the frame as well. So this is a really wide bit of sky, lots of interesting nebulosity in it, which hopefully will come out nicely with the modified camera. I'm not sure I've got it in me tonight to do any H alpha as well. Usually I can get quite nice nebulosity with this modified camera. Unfortunately, the incident with the camera earlier has rather taken the wind out of my sails a bit, so I don't think I'm going to do any H alpha. But in a second, once these have gone for a few, I'll probably do about 10 of them, I would say, something like that, so 30 minutes of exposure. Should be able to get a lot of nice detail out of that. I'll then go and find some alternative foregrounds. It's important to remember sometimes when you're out under the stars just to slow down and stop and just look. It's actually the peak of the quadrantid meteor shower tonight, which is one of my favourite meteor showers. I've got very fond memories when I was, I think, 11, 12, 13 of getting up in the early hours towards the end of my school Christmas holidays and getting a sleeping bag and a sun lounger and getting out under the stars where we lived in a relatively dark place and watching the quadrantids, which come about 3 weeks after the peak of the Geminid meteor shower. You typically get some pretty good meteors with the quadrantids. It's a little bit overlooked because it's so cold at this time of year, and I guess people are going back to work after Christmas and that sort of thing. Alan Wallace said a very nice thing about meteor showers, which is that they are like the birthdays in the astronomical calendar. They come around on the same dates each year and they're to be celebrated, and they're all a bit different. So actually what I'm going to do now is go and grab a chair, sit and just hopefully see a few meteors. Moved a few hundred yards inland now, a bit further up the river here, and I found this old shed barn, which I think is used by the fishing community around here, and I've got quite a simple composition with the barn from this corner with Orion directly above it. It's a 35mm shot. I've had to pick the composition of this fairly carefully because to the left over there, you can probably see on the screen, is what I think is a holiday let, which has got Christmas lights and things on the outside of it and is lit on the inside, and that would look pretty ugly in this image. So I'm going to have to crop quite tightly on this barn. It'll be a 2-shot Vertorama 35mm, and I've been doing f2.8 ISO 6400 30-second exposure with long exposure noise reduction on, and then for the sky I'll do 3-minute exposures at f2.8 and ISO 800 tracked exposures obviously, but I think it's quite a nice simple composition. I've got what I think is quite an interesting foreground here, just on the bank of the river. There's this boat that has been hauled out onto the riverbank. It's actually quite derelict and partly filled with soil. I wonder if in the summer they planted up with flowers or something. It's just next to this jetty here. And it's quite a derelict boat, but above it is Orion and Sirius. And I think it makes quite an interesting little composition. Shooting with the 35mm Samyang lens, stopped down to f2.8 I think, and for the foreground here I'm shooting a 30-second exposure at ISO 6400 with long exposure noise reduction on, and I'll blend that with a 35mm Orion sky, which I'll shoot very shortly. Well, that's it from Walberswick for this evening. Definitely a night that did not go according to plan, starting with the obvious of losing that camera and the tripod and a decent lens and an intervalometer that was sitting on top of it, but no one was hurt, and so I've been trying to be philosophical about it, as annoyed with myself as I am, but I think it's important when these things happen just to try to learn from them. You know, what could I do better next time? What can I make sure I'm checking and double checking and triple checking to make sure these things don't happen again? I'm sure some of you have had disasters out and about as well. I'd love to hear some of those in the comments as well, just to make me feel better, really, to make sure I'm not the only person out there getting these sorts of things wrong. These things unfortunately do happen. I also struggle to get decent foregrounds tonight. Admittedly, my frame of mind probably wasn't great after the camera incident, but I really found it hard to get compositions that I was really pleased with. I'm sure I've got 2 or 3 half decent shots tonight, but I don't think they're going to be portfolio keepers. But it's a shame because the sky conditions have been absolutely stunning. Orion is punching through so strongly there to the southeast and the south. The sky is so beautifully dark Sirius is blazing away there as well. So it's a shame I haven't been able to marry those beautiful tracked sky images with equally compelling foregrounds, but these things happen. Again, you just need to learn from these nights that don't quite go according to plan, and it's never a rubbish night under the stars because it's just so fantastic being out here. You've got the Pleiades just shimmering up there, looking like, you know, diamonds just on the surface of the sky. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I can't really get grumpy about stuff that doesn't go well when you're out under the stars. So also I hope you're encouraged that if you've had nights out that haven't quite gone according to plan, it's not just you. At the very least it's you and it's me, and maybe it's no one else, but at least there's two of us, and you know, that's company. If you got this far, thank you very much indeed for watching. I'll put up on the screen in just a second the images that I've managed to get tonight, and I hope to see you on another Nightscape adventure very soon.